Hey everybody, I hope you guys are all healthy and safe. So I have here the iPhone 12 Pro Max and the iPhone 12 mini. So these are respectively the largest and smallest of the 4 new iPhones that Apple introduced this year. Now the iPhone 12 mini is getting a lot of attention, mostly from US media because they really like small phones for some reason. And I gotta admit, even though I am a fan of big phones because I like that larger screen, grabbing the iPhone 12 mini for the first time did bring a sense of woe because it fits in the hand so comfortably. This is a really tiny device, but other than the size novelty, there's not much to talk about with the iPhone 12 mini because this is the exact same phone as a standard iPhone 12 except for size and a smaller battery. So battery life on this is apparently not that great. So there's really not that much to talk about with the mini. I'll still probably make a video on this down the line, but for this video I'm going to focus on comparing the cameras of the iPhone 12 Pro Max against the iPhone 12 Pro, because the iPhone 12 Pro already brought a pretty notable camera improvement over last year's iPhone 11 phones, even the 11 Pro Max. But the iPhone 12 Pro Max improves on the 12 Pro even more. In fact, this is the first time in several years that the biggest iPhone got even more features than the standard Pro phone. So what's new this year? The main camera of the 12 Pro Max has a larger image sensor than on the 12 Pro and obviously any previous iPhones before. And as you guys may already know, the larger the image sensor, the more light it can take in, and the more light it can take in, the better the photo. So just by virtue of having a larger image sensor means this main camera should be better than the 12 Pro when it comes to low light photography. So maybe pictures in a dimly lit bar or on a street when it gets dark. Now I've only gotten the phone this morning, so I have not tested it at night yet, but I'm waiting for sun to set. And when it sets, I'm gonna step outside and do a nighttime photo comparison in this video later in the end. But in the meantime, let's talk about the other changes to the camera system. So in addition to the larger image sensor, the main camera also has an improved stabilization system. It's kind of equivalent to IBIS in-body image stabilization that are used by Sony digital cameras. So that means instead of the OIS on traditional iPhones, OIS means the lens moves to compensate for movement. On the iPhone 12 Pro Max, the entire sensor will move to compensate for movement, which in theory should mean that if you're shooting videos and walking, it should be a little bit more fluid than on the iPhone 12 Pro, although this already does a very great job. And more importantly, according to Apple, when you're taking really low light photography and you have to use night mode, photos will turn out a little bit sharper with the iPhone 12 Pro Max than on the 12 Pro because of that improved stabilization. Because when you're taking a night mode photo, it's basically a long exposure shot. So if you have shaky hands, your night mode photos usually don't turn out that nice. So the other improvement of the 12 Pro Max comes in the telephoto camera. It is now a 2.5x optical zoom. That's a focal length equivalent of 65 millimeters. So that means automatically when you're in the camera app and you tap the zoom button, it immediately jumps to 2.5x, whereas on the standard iPhone 12 Pro, it jumps into just 2x. So as you'd expect, that means whenever you go deeper into the zoom, like 5x, 10x, images will look a little bit sharper on the iPhone 12 Pro Max than on the iPhone 12 Pro. But where the other benefit of that 65mm telephoto zoom is, it's a more natural focal length for taking portraits. So now when you take portraits, it's just a nicer, tighter crop to the subject, whereas when I take portraits with the same camera, I find that I have to go closer to my subject just to get that ideal portrait framing. You know, just looking at the portraits side by side, I think the iPhone 12 Pro Max has a slightly better lit picture, I think because the image sensor is a little bit larger, and also just it's slightly more pleasing bokeh creamy effect, slightly. The biggest difference between the two cameras ultimately will come down to low light photography or if you're doing 10x zoom. Alright guys, so the sun has set. Now it's time to test the cameras. I actually had to step out for a meal earlier, so I actually already tested the cameras at night. I have night mode on both phones. The 12 Pro Max is still a little bit brighter with less noise by a little bit. But anyway, let's do a little bit more testing right now. Okay, so this first scene, I'm just gonna take a standard shot. And this is a relatively contrasty shot because you have a lot of light coming down the stores down there. But then also these two buildings are a little bit dark. So we'll just test it right now with the 12 Pro Max. So I'm just going to leave everything by default. There's no night mode right now, so this is just a standard shot. We'll just take a 1x photo. And now we'll do the same with the 12 Pro. I actually think this isn't really dark enough, so you might not see a big difference yet. But we'll also test the zoom now. We'll go up to 10x down to this supermarket right here. So this is the 12 Pro. Now we'll do the 12 Pro Max. So 12 Pro Max actually maxes out at 12x zoom, but just so we have a fair comparison, I'm just gonna do 10x right here. So we shoot down at that rooftop right there. You see it's relatively dark right now with the camera, but now I bring the iPhone 12 Pro Max and it immediately lights up. Now night mode is on. But let's turn off night mode and see what this large sensor can do. And now I'm going to bring over the iPhone 12 Pro. This is with night mode on. Turn off night mode. Just for the sake of comparison, I'm going to rip out the Huawei Mate 40 Pro too. Okay, now let's do a test in extreme low light conditions. So I'm going to turn off the light out in that patio right now. So I'm going to turn it off. Okay, so as you can see right now, it's basically like pitch black. But I'm going to bring out the iPhone 12 Pro Max. This is with night mode on. And let's turn off night mode. So you see that even without night mode, this is a pretty impressive shot. Now here's a standard iPhone 12 Pro. Night mode on. And we'll turn off night mode. You can already see quite a big difference between the two shots when you don't have night mode turned on. And once again, just for the sake of comparison, I'm going to bring in the Huawei Mate 40 Pro. Okay, so after having examined all the photos on the computer, I actually find that the iPhone 12 Pro Max, you know, it does pull in a little bit more light, and generally if you zoom in, you'll see that it has a little bit less noise. But you really got a pixel peep to see a difference. If you're just looking at the photos on the phone screen, it's really hard to see. Particularly in Hong Kong nights where it's not even really that dark. You really have to go into a dark alley, pitch black conditions just to see a major difference. So if you are planning on buying the iPhone 12 Pro Max just for the camera, I would say don't do it. The iPhone 12 Pro's camera turns out to be just as good. I think that's a testament to Apple's computational photography, because the 12 Pro Max does indeed have a larger image sensor. But whenever you shoot night mode, that basically wipes away whatever advantage that large sensor has. And to be honest, the Huawei Mate 40 Pro is a better camera at pulling light and zoom lenses anyway. But the 12 Pro Max and the 12 Pro are still excellent cameras with really good balance shots all around and some of the best video performances around. So anyway, I'm gonna have a lot more videos coming up, including comparing the iPhone 12 Pro Max against the Huawei Mate 40 Pro. So if you're interested in more content like this, please subscribe to my channel or follow me on Instagram at Ben's Gadget Reviews. Thanks for watching.